We are Marc, Amy, Juliette and Clement from the medieval Château de Rosieres. This Christmas we've made you a very special Advent calendar. Every day from the 1st to the 25th of December we will open the door to a different room in the chateau and introduce you to its past, present and future. Merry Christmas.
Today I'm going to show you one of the tower bedrooms. This bedroom is situated in a 15th century tower, which originally was a defensive feature on the chateau. And then when the chateau lost its defensive purpose, it was refurbished into a magnificent bedroom with a beautiful parquet flooring, and they did some clever refurbishments in the defensive features. The most beautiful feature in this room is the beautiful parquet flooring made of walnut and maple wood. The center is a star, which is unfortunately hidden by the bed. And one of the amazing things is that they inlaid the marble of the fireplace to match the parquet flooring. This room was probably refurbished in the late 18th century or early 19th. And another really nice feature is the ceiling that mirrors the parquet on the floor. Another really interesting feature in this room is the way they arranged the gun loop to make a little washing cabinet. So there's a little desk with a drawer and underneath a stone sink sloping down towards the outside. So you'd be able to put your washing bowl on the desk and have a little wash, and then discard the water underneath and it would run straight outside. What's amazing about this little cabinet is the carpentry work that really fits the round of the tower and the wood that disappears into the wall when you open it. On the other side of the door is the mirror cupboard, which this one is a standard one, with the same type of beautiful woodwork. Another interesting thing is that there's one more arrow loop, at least hidden behind the wall. This room at the moment is hardly usable because the radiator is broken and it gets really cold in winter, especially because it's surrounded by outside walls. And also it had some very unfortunate decoration in the 1970s, so we will need to take off this wallpaper and do a really nice restoration to give it back its glory of the 18th century.
As Marc said, there is no working radiator in here. There is a radiator, and once upon a time it was working, but we need to replace it, and more than that, we need to do some fairly fundamental works in the room below. Because this room is above the amazing wine cellar that we have, which is the old medieval guard tower. And we did a video on that, one of our first ever videos, which I'll link to. And the problem with some of the modernisation that happened here, I mean, this could have been really early 20th century, is that they just put holes through some beautiful old parts of the chateau, and this radiator is a perfect example. And so the pipe for this just goes through the ceiling, the beautiful vaulted ceiling of the cellar, and it's just so ugly. And so we're trying very hard to work out a way of putting either this radiator somewhere else in the room, or passing it elsewhere. It's difficult, you can't put it under the floor because of the beautiful floor, which is directly above some vaults. But we've got a few ideas, but it's non-negotiable to have a radiator in here, because as Marc said, it's absolutely freezing. When you have a room that's all external wall, it just means, I mean, stones just don't keep the heat terribly well, and so in the winter, as you can see, it gets really really cold. The fireplace is really interesting on a whole load of levels in here. As you can see, the parquet flooring was beautifully done to fit the marble in front of the fireplace. So we know that there was a fireplace here a long time ago. But how long ago it was still being used, we're not sure. There is an incredible piece of history about this room, more recent history, of somebody who spent quite a long time in here in the 20th century, and that was told to us by Bruno, who is the Frenchman who lived here in the 1940s as a child, who recently came to talk about the potential for cellars here and told us his memories. And he has some very particular and very poignant memories about this room. We talk about this fully on our Patreon account, but there's some privacy issues that mean we can't talk about it more widely at the moment. But needless to say, somebody once spent a lot of time in this room. And so presumably at that point they would have had the fire going. And the fire itself is quite interesting because everything in the chateau was reused at different points for different things, because I mean, why do something new if there was already something you could use, which is what the same as we're doing. And from the medieval guard tower downstairs, we discovered an old vent, which would have been used to ventilate the smells from the toilet. Again, that's in our tour of the tower that we did a couple of years ago. And this vent was then reused when they put a chimney in here. And so it was able to draw the smoke up. It would be too dangerous to have a fire in here in future. I think it's even illegal to have open fires or any form of fire in a bedroom anymore, quite sensibly so really. But we'll keep it as a feature because obviously it still fits beautifully in here. And there's one funny little story. When we first moved in, we were trying to see what was behind it, and I pulled this up and a mummified rat fell out of it. Rest assured there are no rats living in here anymore though. Above all else, our chateau is our home, and so our decoration, while sometimes historically sensitive or aesthetically pleasing, is often driven as much by emotion as anything else and things that mean something to us. And I think that's why we sometimes get these accusations of it being a mess. I mean, clearly quite a lot of it is a mess as well. But sometimes there are rooms that we think are actually fine and other people are commenting on videos, oh, that's a mess. Like, But that's, I think what people mean is it's not looking like a display home, and because some of the things we've got don't fit in and stuff. But we'll never really change that. Of course we want things to look as beautiful as possible, but ideally you want to be able to look up in a room and smile at something that means something to you. And this painting here was done by a dear friend of mine who was my first ever French friend. Because when I moved to France, I didn't actually know any French or know anybody in this area. And Marc didn't know anybody in this area, but of course, being French and speaking French, was able to make friends quicker. That's all changed now, and it's all wonderful. But this lady who lived in a tiny little new build house at the end of our driveway also had moved in from out of the area. She'd spent her life following her father or her husbands around the world, who were all in the military, and she decided to settle here. And she was in her early 80s, and a funny, cantankerous old lady who I used to go and have tea with her and play children's board games. We'd play, because she really wanted to play things like bridge, but I didn't know in English even, let alone in French. So she'd get out these children's board games for me, and we would play them, and it was just lovely. We didn't really speak each other's language, but we got on so well, and we'd play in the sunshine in her conservatory. And very sadly, a few years ago, not long after we moved here full time, she got cancer and went downhill very slowly and unfortunately. And I was able to spend a lot of time with her, but just before she died, for my birthday, she gave me this painting that she had done. And I just find it absolutely beautiful. And it may not fit with the style or the time, but it really means something to me. And when we have a retreat centre at the end here, we still want people to feel like they're coming to stay in our home, and that they're getting to be our friends and a bit in our home, not just anonymous decoration that's done for a magazine shoot, but something that actually is from our past and our world. Because we find that people who do come and stay here seem to really love it and seem to like being a part of that world. And it's also a very homely chateau, and lots of people comment that they don't feel scared here, they feel comfortable and at home, and that means an awful lot to us.
What will be challenging when we redecorate this room is to find furniture that matches a round room, because in tower rooms furniture would have been bespoke made. So we sometimes come across auctions where they have that type of furniture that nobody wants because nobody has the room to fit it in. But it is always rare and hard to find. Especially in the case of this room, we need to find a way to have a bed that doesn't overlap the beautiful parquet flooring, the center of the room. So if anybody has ideas about how we could achieve that, please leave us a comment. There's a very peaceful feeling about this room because it's so remote, even within the chateau. It's apart because it's in its own tower, and there is the most amazing view that just makes you want to sit here and write letters while looking through the window.